I can't predict very well because I'm still kind of sick. I'm just getting over some things. Anyway, so I'm from the Halifax Media Cooperative. I hope to give you a little intro to what exactly we do here. And I'm going to bring over kind of a radical idea. That is the idea of owning your own media. This is the part where I stop and wait for your audible gasps. Anyway, so I'm going to just tell you a little bit about what that means and why we need it. So, I mean, this is sort of showing you what the current state of media is today. Things like CanWest, things like CTV Global, they're all becoming more and more conglomeratized. So there's bigger industries owning more and more papers, and it's pushing out smaller, local offices, and it's really removing small community-based journalism. You have things like Sun TV and Sun Media who are actively participating in the propagation of objectification of women. With things like this, they actually have a sunshine girl on their TV stations. And they're basically not interested in doing investigative reporting. They're not interested in telling people stories. You have things like The Coast, who are doing some investigative journalism, but are unfortunately limited by certain things like having to make apologies. Now, that's because they were faced with a lawsuit. At the Media Co-op, we don't have enough money to be sued, so we're safe in that regard. That being said, The Coast is an entertainment magazine, and they're doing their job very well. But things like The Coast and things like the Metro that are failing us, they're not telling the stories that need to be told in Halifax. So that's where we want to tell the stories that matter to the communities, to the people being affected by the policy decisions being made in Ottawa and elsewhere. So our goal is to start from the ground up and tell the grassroots story from people firsthand. So this started with the Dominion being published nationally in 2003. The Dominion is a national publication. Right now it's based in Montreal. And throughout the years, we told a variety of stories, based on Indigenous issues, LGBTQ issues. The environment has been a big part of this. And we also published a number of special issues. Foreign policy, the tar sands was a big goal. It's a big target. While corporate media still talks a lot about, is the tar sands bad? What does it mean for the industry? We're talking about the people who live nearby. We're talking about people who are most impacted by these developments. Same goes for mining. So our most recent issue is climate justice. We actually have a launch party taking place next Wednesday at 7 o'clock at the McMott Center. So you definitely show up for that. But it's a lot about what people are doing to cope with climate change, what people are doing to fight back. Indigenous groups that are pushing out oil and gas development. Anyway, so in Halifax, we thought the next logical thing to do would be to open up a local. I mean, if we're going to tell local stories, we need, locally based offices. And I use that term, office, loosely. But basically, we started discussions and focus groups talking about what we need to do in Halifax to start telling people stories. And so that turned into, a push to figure out exactly what it looked like. Whose stories do we want to tell? How do we want to be governed? And I mean, it's different because people buy into it in a different way. When you get a subscription to the Chronicle Herald, you're buying a product. You're paying for news. At the Media Co-op, we're intent on having a democratically governed newspaper that's based on people's ideas of what needs to be told. So we react, creatively to what people want to hear, and we work to tell those stories through our mostly volunteer readership. What's the next slide? There we go. This is basically our model. So then we have our membership, people who read, people who contribute, and people who give us money and fire a giant money beam up to our main office. And you have there's actually 4 locals now, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Halifax, and they get together, they publish, their locals, and they also contribute to the Dominion, which goes back to the membership. Now, some of the stories that we have told here in Halifax, what I'm very proud of, is the student day of action that took place a couple months back in freezing cold, while the media kind of took it on as an afterthought, kind of being casually surprised there was that many students there. We had a lot of people on the ground taking pictures and telling stories of what these students were on the streets for. Another instance was actually just down the street. This was Gary Kinsberg. He's a really renowned Canadian sociologist and LGBTQ historian. I was the only media there, and it was really interesting what he was talking about. He was talking a lot about preserving people's histories and the histories of oppressed minorities. And that's what a lot of the co-op does. We're creating kind of the record of these sort of things. This is another story with the Dominion, and it's an example of the investigative journalism we do at the co-op. I looked into basically Canadian government's relationship with Canadian mining companies operating overseas that are basically ignoring and infracting on ethical, environmental, and human rights issues. But it's not free. At the end of the day, we still need money to keep going, and that's the hardest part, because we don't take big, government grants, and we don't do a lot of advertising. So for $20, you get a t-shirt. And you also get to get a subscription to Dominion, and you get to support democratically governed local media. If you can't afford that, that's fine. You can also become a member by writing. If you contribute 4 stories to the Media Co-op, you become a contributor, and that allows you to have full voting rights, and it lets you really tell your story, tell the stories that you think ought to be told. I mean, if you can't string 2 sentences together, then there are some other options. You can pitch a story. You can tell us what you think ought to be covered. You can suggest in any way you want to what you think the Media Co-op should be talking about, whether that's environmental issues, human rights issues, whatever. We're probably going to cover it. I mean, if we think it's worthwhile, we'll probably find someone to do it. And that's where a lot of our stories come from, is from our readership and from our contributors pitching stories. At the very least, you can read the damn thing. What we're doing here is we're not selling a product. We're producing something to be consumed by the people at Halifax. We're doing something that can be, that is, by the people, for the people, of the people, and all that. So, it's something everywhere. And to seal the deal, here's to seal it. So, basically what I pitched to you today is either give a little bit of money that will help us keep telling these stories. If you can't do that, start writing stories for us. If you can't even do that, then just read it. I mean, we're the alternative here. We're not, well, it's not a